Hello, class. It's Miss Roberts here, and today we're going to discuss how to plan and conduct meetings so you can have an efficient and effective meeting experience. Let's begin. So let me move myself over here. All right. So you might have had meetings in the past and have experience with meetings, either in other groups for your classes, maybe a meeting at work, or maybe even a family meeting. A meeting is essentially a scheduled gathering of group members for a structured discussion guided by a designated chairperson or leader. Before we dive into the guidelines of how to have effective meetings, let's talk about why meetings fail in the first place. First, you might have late arrivals and early departures. Consistent late arrivals, early departures can be disruptive to the meeting process. You want to make sure to keep those to a minimum, but make sure to communicate if you do have to leave early or arrive late. Then failure to use a following agenda. It's really important to figure out what are important action items, what is the straight up information or needs to know information, and what are some ongoing issues that need to be resolved either in the meeting, the current meeting, or following. So make sure to use the following agenda in order to keep your meeting organized and effective. But make sure you don't have too many agenda items. So meetings might last 30 minutes to an hour and a half in general. But if you have too many items on the agenda, it might reduce the chances of the action item getting resolved. Also, determine which issues require longer discussions and which issues can be effectively resolved via text message or messenger. So making sure that, hey, if we're going to meet, which which action items are the most important and how many items can we get through in one meeting. Then a meeting ended without accomplishing anything. We want to make sure that doesn't happen either because the goal is to talk, discuss, and then from that discussion, do your task and follow up. So it's an effective communication tool, especially with many members of a team. Then members fail to follow up on their task after the meeting. We want to make sure that we're doing our parts and our jobs, and with the meeting, we're able to ask questions of the group and make sure that each person has clarity on their role and how to put together their information, their roles when we put the product together. So by failing to follow up on a task and failing to complete the task, defeats the purpose of the meeting in the first place. All right. So each meeting doesn't necessarily have to have the same chairperson. It's totally up to you, but you do want someone to be in charge of the meeting to put the information together and just to make sure that it's organized and people have the opportunity to express themselves. So the chairperson is in charge of the meeting and they set the clear goals and prepares the agenda. They have control of the meeting, so time you're able to provide a specific amount of time for each person to speak, open up the floor, and just be the person that organized the meeting in real time. Group members actively participate in the meeting, and of course, the chairperson provides advance notice of the time and place the meeting will take place. And group members prepare for their meeting with their questions, concerns, and discuss what they've done for the project thus far. All right. So we have our essential meeting elements. We have the chairperson that's in charge of the meeting, the schedule, so figuring out what goes where, and the actual structure. So let's go ahead and explore that some more. So the chairperson's roles can be appointed or elected by your peers. And like I said before, the same person doesn't have to be the chairperson each time. And you can also practice being a chairperson because the skills in this class are going to carry you to other classes and a work role. So practicing being a chairperson and being in charge of meetings is a really good idea. So with pre-meeting planning, you want to notify members, distribute materials, either via email or text, or provide handouts if you decide to meet in person. Remind members of the meeting. So sometimes life gets busy and we might intend to go to a meeting, but we might not be able to, or we might not remember. So make sure to remind members of the actual meeting. And then prepare the discussion for the meeting. So during the meeting, you want to make sure to begin on time, delegate the meeting minutes. So if there are previous meeting minutes, you want to also delegate who writes the information for the meeting. So the meeting minutes, which we'll talk about in a minute, are pretty much an outline of what happened during the meeting. So just in case you missed it, or you want to refer to the meeting minutes for information that you might need, that documentation is available. You also want to follow the agenda, facilitate and be in charge of the discussion, and provide closure. So you're also keeping the time of how long we speak, how long we focus on an action item, so on and so forth. Post-meeting tasks. So we have pre, during, and post-meeting tasks. You want to evaluate the meeting, what went well, what could be changed, distribute the minutes. So say, for instance, you have someone else write the meeting minutes. You're able to distribute them to the attendees and people who were absent, and monitor assigned tasks. As the chairperson that's in charge of a project, you're able to check in and monitor if everyone's staying on task and target. So let's think about what are some of the communication barriers that can occur during a meeting. So let's go ahead and think about that. So as meeting members, you have several roles and jobs as well. You want to make sure to be an active participant, assist the chairperson, and make the best of your meeting time together. So you want to organize your contributions, clearly state what you're working on, clearly state what issues you're having, but make sure you do that in a quick and succinct manner. Speak when your contribution is relevant and make one point at a time so that pre-planning, writing down your information ahead of time because time is so tight during these meetings. Make sure that you're making one relevant point at a time. Speak clearly and forcefully and support your ideas with evidence. Listen actively to all aspects of the discussion. Disruptive behaviors during meetings. You want to make sure to be respectful to not only the chairperson, but the additional members that are in attendance. Make sure that you're not participating. I know that's double negative, but we want to make sure that we're actively asking questions, providing assistance, and making the most of this time. Making sure you're not being a loudmouth and overarching or overreaching, being argumentative, and or speaking for so much or so long that you don't allow other people to speak, which also includes interrupters, making sure that you're waiting your turn when it's your turn to speak. Also, don't whisper or have hot side conversations during the meeting that can be disruptive and can foster conflict and suspicion with your group members. Latecomers, early leavers, so just make sure to stay for the entire time and or communicate that you have to leave early or communicate that you have to leave early ahead of time so there's notice, but make sure to not make that a habit. So let's talk about the agenda. The agenda is the document of the outline of items to be discussed and tasks to be accomplished during a meeting. It's a way to organize your information, helps members prepare for the meeting, helps with time management. So if you have the times there, the chairperson and the members both know how long each item, excuse me, how long the group will spend on each item, and it can provide a measure of success. Did you meet your goals? If not, you can provide more time the next time for that particular action item. So the elements of our agenda are as follows. We have the purpose of the meeting, names of the group members, both present and absent, date, time, and place, call to order. So what time was the meeting officially started? Approval of the agenda. So they might say aye or nay. And then approval of the meeting's previous minutes, individual and committee reports. So of course for this class, you may or may not have formed like little mini committees, but for larger organizations, you might have more than one person in a particular role or handling a particular action item. So for example, excuse me, for example, you might, because we're a smaller group, you might have different individuals working on different things. So you can tell your teammates, what have you been working on? Unfinished business. So what are some continuing items from the previous meeting that you need to work on this time? Then we have new business. So what are the new action items that we need to discuss? Announcements. So announcements is just information, FYIs for your team. It doesn't require a bunch of additional discussion, but those are some announcements. And then adjournment. That's when the meeting comes to a close. So after everything is done, someone is designated to write the meeting minutes. So it's a written record of the group's discussion activities. So with the attendees that were absent, they'll have a record of what's going on, and then they can ask additional questions of the group later on. And it prevents disagreements over decisions because the written record of what was already decided. What to include in the minutes? The name of the group, date and place of the meeting, names of the team members, names of the chairs, who was in charge of the meeting, names of absent members, time the meeting was called to order, time the meeting was adjourned, name of the person prepared the minutes, of course, giving credit to the person who prepared the minutes, and summary of decisions and of discussion and decisions, including action items or assigned tasks. So, for example, what was decided, what was held off to later on, and by having both the minutes and the agenda, you're able to organize what discussions you have. And by practicing during this class time or during this experience in class, you'll be able to have that skill set for your future. Post-meeting evaluation. So here's some of the questions that we can all ask ourselves to make sure that we are doing what we need to do in our meetings. Is everything being taken care of? And for the future, was the goal clear? Was the agenda useful and followed? How prepared were the group members? Did everyone have an equal chance to participate? Did the members listen effectively and consider different points of view? Were the assignments and deadlines made clear by the end of the meeting? By evaluating the meeting, both the chairman and the group members were able to be more effective and practice being more effective in our meeting agenda creation and the creation of our meeting minutes. All right, class. So overall, make sure, at least for the projects, have your meeting agenda, and then for the final project, have a meeting agenda and minutes. You can also use these templates as many times as you want. However, for our projects, we're just required at least one, just demonstration that you know how to use it. But of course, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for listening to me today, or for listening to me at night, listening to me that night. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye.